So let's take a look at this golf swing. So the first thing I notice is at address, I don't have a face on view, so I'm not going to talk too much about grip or your setup or where the handle is or where your weight is because I can't see that. But what I can see is where your weight is. So when you set up to the golf ball, you've got a lot of flex in your knees and your posterior is pretty far behind your heels. It actually looks like your toes are almost up into the air. So my recommendation is let's do yourself a favor and take a little bit of flex out of those knees. Let's get your posterior a little bit more in line with your heels. It will be a little bit past them, but I just don't want to see your posterior that far back. That's pretty far back. It's taking a lot of the weight and the mass of your body and moving it backwards. Now, as we take the club back, let's see what you do from here. So slowly we take the club back, and I'm going to stop you right about here. So this is an interesting position for someone to be in. And why I say that is when you take the club back, it looks to me that you don't have a whole lot of control of this thing right here, the club head. It looks as if the handle's moving a whole lot, but the club head isn't moving very much with you. So it's almost like, the tail of a dog basically doing its own thing and telling the dog where to go. Like the dog wags his tail. The tail doesn't wag the dog. I know that's a really old saying, but basically the moral is you need to tell the club what to do as opposed to the club telling you what to do. So it just feels like it's kind of flinging itself backwards, and you're kind of swinging the handle of the club, which is okay sometimes, but not in your scenario. So as you take it further back, what you're going to notice here is when the left arm is parallel to the ground, the club doesn't have a lot of height to it. It's actually very, very flat. As the club gets really flat, it feels heavy. We don't want that feel. We want to be able to get the club more up into the air. We're going to need more wrist hinge. From this angle, it's going to look like this. The club's going to have more height to it. It's going to be more vertical, and it's going to feel lighter. It's going to feel a little bit more light so you can actually create some leverage for it. We'll get to all that stuff. How do we fix it? We'll do that in a drill. But what I'm saying is it looks to me like you are swinging the handle of the club. You don't have very much leverage, and we're going to get the club up into the air a little bit more so the shaft kind of pitches on a different angle. You take the club all the way back, and from here, it kind of looks obvious to me, but I couldn't see it at address. It looks to me that the golf club is pretty far into the palm of your left hand. So if I'm here, it looks like it's kind of trapped way here into the palm of your hand. I'd prefer you to put the golf club a little bit more in the fingertips, but as you come down, because you didn't have very much leverage, you're going to start to make a move that goes out towards the golf ball with basically everything. So you're trying to create power by going out to the ball, and that's what's happening. So you're going down and out, and as that happens, the club gets a little bit steep on you early. So steep being how far up in the air it is. So you went from really, really flat to now a little more vertical. And then what are you going to do to save that on the way down? You're probably going to start to maybe extend and kind of try to drag the club or the handle more out to pull the club head more in. So here's what's going to happen. There we go. Club face is open at this point. Let's erase some of these lines. Club face is pointed up in that direction. And here comes the downswing. There we go. And if we zoom in a little bit, you're doing all of that by using a little bit of what we would call ulnar. So you're kind of like dragging the handle out, bowing this left wrist a little bit. And this is why when you hit your golf ball, you make impact with it with what looks like a square club face there. And then one frame after, think the club face is pointed 90 degrees back at the ground. It's just because you have so much of this, which shuts the face and kind of pushes the path rightward. And then the face turns down and it looks more like that post-impact. So there's some stuff to fix. Is it gloom and doom? No, we can easily fix some of that stuff. And all of that is the reason why you end up with a little bit of what you dubbed a chicken wing, right? So let's look at some drills that we might be able to do to fix that. Not gonna be rocket science. Let's get down to work. All right, so first things first, let's just double check your posture. So if I were you, I would stand up kind of like with the camera in this direction. You could even put a wall behind you, stand up nice and tall, put a little bit of flex in your legs, a little bit of bend at the hips, and that's all you need. If you notice, my rear end is kind of just a little past my heels. Yours was back here, and your weight was back on your heels, and I don't want to see that. That's going to make you move around in a very odd way and not be very balanced during your golf swing. So now that we have that done, next thing, let's check your grip. Take your left hand, and make a note of where it is. I'm going to assume, and I can't say for certain, if the golf club is actually in this part of your hand or this part, but let's kind of put it a little further into the fingertips. So when you do this, it's going to help you wrap your fingers around that way, and it's going to help you have the ability to do some of this, some hinging of the golf club. That is something that you're missing from your golf swing that you need a lot more of. When I take the club and put it into the palm of my hand and I wrap my fingers around it, it's really hard to have any kind of range of motion. I can kind of go this way, but then I'm starting to turn the golf club. But I really want to see more in the fingers, not way down here, right? But in the fingers. So you have way more range of motion. That's what we want to see. And then you can go ahead and put your other hand on the golf club, probably in a similar manner to what you had before, but make sure it's more in the fingers as opposed to the palm of your hand. So now here comes the actual stuff that we need to work on in our golf swing. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is get yourself two things. I want a tee and I want a alignment rod. So now that you have an alignment rod, you can either A, stick it into the butt end of the club like this, or B, you can hold onto it and the golf club at the same time. This is just a little easier. And from here, you're going to set up with the stick pointing at your left hip or just touching your left hip, and you're going to make some practice backswing. So from a down the line angle with good posture, right, and a good grip, I want to see when you make the backswing, by the time your hands and arms get to parallel to the ground, can you get that stick to point directly at the ground sooner? It cannot point at the horizon. It can't point at the people in the stall next to you. Can't point at the trees. I need it to point more down towards the ground. So if I had a golf ball in front of me, and now this is a wedge, keep in mind, it's pointing almost down at the wedge, but maybe a little bit outside and past it. What's the level of appropriateness for how tilted or how angled the club should be? This is probably too much. We could do it, right? Anything's possible. And this is probably too little. I just need something to make the club feel lighter at left arm parallel. And I want you to make some swings and actually hit the golf ball. Like, be careful. Number one, don't pierce yourself in the side with it, but go slowly. Get the club to this position here and strike the golf ball. What you're going to find is you're going to have way more leverage to hit the golf ball. You're not going to have to come out with your body. You're going to have way more control over the strike of the ball. And I want you to work on that. You could do it at home. You could do it on the driving range. You can do it anywhere. Like, you don't always need a golf ball for it. So again, left arm parallel, club points more down, make a downswing. Boom, hit the golf ball. Do it again. I'd be doing a painful amount of reps with this. Things it's going to help you with, it's not going to let you flip through impact. It's going to keep the club and the handle moving forward in the proper way. I think that's very helpful. When you get really good with this, pull the stick out, grab yourself a tee. I think I got one in here somewhere. Stick it in the butt end of the club. So now it's a little less cumbersome. It gives you something out of the corner of your eye to see, and you could do the exact same drill, just like this. Parallel the ground. Boom. Okay, is the angle right? Yep, checked it. Give it a go. Hit the golf ball. If you can do that, you're going to be way more successful when you go to play golf on the golf course and hit golf balls. I think that'll really, really help you. So again, three things: grip, more in the fingers; setup, posterior way out, pull it in a little bit and keep it over your heels a little bit more, not outside the heels; and then create some sort of lever system. So by the time your left arm is parallel to the ground, you've got a 90-degree angle and you've got some angle to the shaft as opposed to it being very, very flat. Hopefully that helps.